Bungie. You know, in my day when we were gamers, we got little games like Halo 1 and Halo 2 and everything. And I guess now we've got a game called Destiny, which I guess did okay. But apparently not, because due to some terrible management, Bungie might not be anything after a while. If you guys haven't obviously heard the news in the last few days, Bungie's been through some troubled times, to say the least. We've seen over 300 plus layoffs, and by the way, part of those are simply moving over to Sony, but they're not working on anything Bungie. So if you applied for Bungie, guess what? You're now working for Sony. Revenue is in the red, and they're hiring guys, or the people who are at the top. Yeah, they're just buying cars and bragging about them apparently. So, but regardless, that's all old news. We know that's, you know, the case when it comes to all of that particular details. You've probably seen from a ton of other videos and everything. Not to mention that Destiny is basically getting like breadcrumbs when it comes to some of the content moving forward, even though Bungie is supposed to only be working on both Destiny and Marathon, because supposedly Marathon's coming out next year. But a lot of people are wondering, so wait, does this mean that Bungie is going to basically become part of Sony, and instead of working as their own thing where they can release their games wherever they want, now it's going to be only on PlayStation or potentially only on PC, you know, as we've seen with like live service games and everything like that? Well, according to Sony president, COO, and CFO Hiroki Totoki, he actually gave some details about restructuring Bungie. The purpose is cost restructure, which is a big no duh, because if you didn't know, Bungie has been bleeding money for quite some time. I guess this is what happens when you have a game that's actually making you some decent money and you decide to spin off 3 to 5 other projects, taking people off of the game that is making you money, and then also opening up a new building on the West Coast, which is obviously going to cost you a lot of money and everything. And so that's just, yeah, kind of like you're not very responsible with your money there. So obviously the purpose is going to be cost restructure and portfolio optimization. He quotes here, "We have to enhance efficiency of the business," which of course is across basically the entire gaming industry when it comes to budgets and trying to get games out at a reasonable time and not trying to break the bank essentially. Bungie back office functions will be integrated into SIE, so that might simply be maybe hiring or how certain things work, or maybe some of their online infrastructure stuff. That could definitely help Sony in some regards. Bungie headcount and resources will be concentrated into Destiny 2 and Marathon, which makes sense. Destiny 2 is your moneymaker right now. It's the only thing making money for you. And Marathon, we'll talk about that in a bit here, because I'm still concerned about Marathon personally. Other title developments at Bungie has officially been transferred over to PlayStation Studios. We heard about this. Up to about 75 workers over at Bungie have been made into a small team working directly under PlayStation and Sony, which is really cool, on whatever that like sci-fi adventure game is. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen there, but that makes sense right there. And then obviously just the final note here is to optimize overall studio structure. So again, this should not be surprising. We've heard about this for the last like almost year and a half to 2 years, where if Bungie was not able to hit certain revenue margins, then Sony was going to eat them alive essentially and just integrate them into themselves, take over, and hit the destruction button essentially. And a lot of people are definitely saying, Sony, this was a bad move to buy this. I still think probably Jim Ryan was trying to get them to really help out with a lot of the live service stuff. And then Sony's just like, back it up there, Jimbo. Why are you spending all this money? You're going to retire now. And then Sony's now basically trying to, you know, fix whatever Jim essentially did when it came to all their live service, because most of that stuff now has been put on ice. It's been canceled, the whole 9 yards. So while there's obviously some amazing talent at Bungie and everything, I really think they got the short end of the straw when it came to Sony, I should say, buying Bungie and now having to deal with this, because it definitely feels like the heads of Bungie came up and were like, oh, no, see, Destiny, we're making all of this right here, and this is going to make you tons of money and everything. And then Jim was just like, yeah, let's do it. And then his bosses came down and were like, why are they in the red? You said they were doing this. That's what I personally think. That's kind of my tinfoil hat that I always have, though, that Jim Ryan was basically asked to leave because he was just spending way too much money. But I mean, at least they're going back to working only on Destiny 2 and Marathon. But Marathon, I've got some personal thoughts on that. But joining with me as always is Lemon, and we actually have one of our older members of Direct Gaming, Lethal, here. Lemon, I want to ask you, when it comes to all of this stuff right here that the COO of Sony is saying when it comes to Bungie restructuring and everything like that, Are you surprised at all, or not really? What are your personal thoughts on all this?
I'm not surprised at all. Bungie's effectively running like a startup. It's just money burn. The whole point of a startup, at least most startups, is to just burn money, just raise money, and then burn it as fast as you can, make this real grandiose picture, and get bought out. And then once the company who buys them, pulls the curtains over and sees that there's nothing going on, it's all facade. Well, the head people at the startup already made off like bandits. That's usually how it goes. And for whatever reason, Bungie, this company has been around for what, 20 plus years now, thinks that I can play the game of being a startup. Why they thought that was going to end well for them, kind of alarming, but I mean, it is what it is. It's just bad management. I feel like Sony probably should have cracked this whip the moment Jim Ryan left, if he was the one stonewalling it. Like this, I mean, I feel like it was an open secret Bungie wasn't doing super duper well. So I don't know. I'm not surprised. I'm a bit bummed because I always remember Bungie as being the people who made Halo, but all those people are gone, and the people who are left who were around for Halo, well, they're not very good at running a business. So it is what it is. I think Sony, like you said, got the short end of the stick here. Hopefully it doesn't affect other studios. At this point, I really feel like Sony's best bet is just to sap whatever talent's left at Bungie and just kind of try to keep the skeleton crew alive for Destiny, and then just kind of go from there. Cross that bridge when it happens, when Destiny 2 just isn't profitable anymore. Cut it off. Because Destiny 3 is not in the cards anymore. I mean, allegedly Payback was supposed to be it, or a pseudo
so
Destiny
for those
3.
of you who don't know, so Payback it's a little hit or miss when it comes to exactly what Payback is. A lot of people are saying that Payback was supposed to be some like third person perspective, like spin-off thing of Destiny or something like that, or within the Destiny universe or something. But basically Destiny 3 is nowhere to be seen. It's not in development, it's not in pre-development, nothing. So anyone hoping that they would do something where it came to, try to get a lot of people to come back and everything with a Destiny 3, that's nowhere close anywhere, right? So at the earliest time you'd potentially even see something like a Destiny 3 would be like in 5 to 6 years, essentially. So, and this is why, they're going to be focusing mostly on Marathon right now, right? We saw all of the articles where it came to like Jason Schreier talking about exactly what this incubation project was. We saw veterans like Luke Smith and Mark leaving the company on their own accord because they were kind of like the big guys and everything when it comes to starting out these projects and everything. We saw a lot of the narrative team get laid off, and it's an absolute mess over there, right? So obviously, like they said in this quote right here, is saying that they're going to be focusing on Destiny 2 and Marathon. Destiny 2 is a big obvious because it actually makes some money right now, but don't expect anything huge. Yearly expansions are gone. They're going to be doing like twice a year, kind of like an Into the Light type of thing where it wasn't really an expansion. It was more like a update essentially that came with like a new mode. It came with some weapons, and that was basically it. Like there wasn't really anything to it. A lot of people liked Into the Light because it got them ready for the big expansion that was the Final Shape. But without that big expansion, I don't think these two small little things are really going to do much work. Now, it is stated that those are also supposed to bring along with them the revamped raids or new dungeons and everything. But we'll have to wait and see, especially with the teams getting cut back and everything. Marathon, on the other hand, and Lethal, I want to get your opinion on this because I know you've been somewhat interested in Marathon. Marathon has gone from an extraction shooter. The rumor right now is that they brought in a lot of the extraction community from other games like Tarkov and everything, and they didn't like it. They said they got bored of it really fast, and now that we've heard that Marathon's supposed to be an extraction shooter using heroes, and the moment you hear hero shooter or anything like that, people just groan and roll their eyes and everything, right? So, but we know Marathon's supposed to be coming out next year in 2025. It's supposed to come out in 2024, but due to Final Shape getting delayed, they obviously had to push back Marathon. But Marathon's going to be in the final start. There's no way Sony's going to let this game get pushed back to 2026 or anything like that. 2025, this game's going to be coming out. And they're going to be taking people off of Destiny to help push Marathon across the finish line. It's a typical thing in all programming and all that kind of stuff. Lemon here is obviously a programmer himself, and he has confirmed multiple times that when it comes to a project getting pushed over the finish line, it's not unheard of to bring people from other teams to help kind of get that final push and just do that kind of stuff. So, Lethal, I want to know your thoughts. Do you think Marathon is even going to succeed when you hear something like an extraction hero shooter in this day and age? Do you think they're going to be able to make this game work?
I wanna like give them like the benefit of the doubt. I think that like this. See, I say that because I'm like, oh, like this is Bungie and I have faith, but then it's like this isn't the same Bungie team as a lot of us like got to know them from the first time with Halo and stuff like that. So I mean, at this point, as we hear about these layoffs and all this restructuring, it's almost like I don't even know what's left of the Bungie team or what's left of I don't know some of that that talent that we know and love from that team. So it's at that point where like hearing that now, like I didn't even know that too much, and I wasn't too versed in Marathon until like we had first saw it or whatever. And even then, it's like it's been I don't even think we've seen anything of Marathon this year. I don't think yet, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's at that point now where I think a lot of people just want to see like what's like what's cooking, like what does it look like, because I couldn't even tell you last time what I remember even it being up, besides like it had like a really cool like teaser of like I don't know, like a space thing of some sort with some interesting looking like people with the weapons and whatnot. But yeah, when you mentioned Tallen, when you mentioned Hero, that makes me want to bomb it. That just makes me want to throw up. Just because I'm very tired of the hero shooter thing and incorporating heroes into these games. But at the same time, it's like that's not even 100% now. We just know that it's supposed to still be like an extraction shooter, and it's supposed to come out next year apparently. So it's like we have to get an update on this game like ASAP in terms of like if you want to get to see where people are feeling with it, because I kind of feel like the thing is a lot of people are sort of in that like that neutral-ish, probably maybe leaning more towards negative because of the bad press that's just going out with Bungie right now. So it's like I don't know, the next thing that they show for this game, hopefully it's enough to draw on that attention, because I don't think it's looking too great. But I don't know. I don't know. I want it to be good and I want it to be fun, just because like I'm looking forward to another game from Bungie. I was never like the craziest Destiny person, but I'm also in the camp that like I hope they're able to like continue with pushing Destiny 2 and whatnot, and as much as they can do. It just sucks that like the studio itself is like not doing good. That leadership is doing really bad. So it looks like they're kind of maybe that wasn't the best decision to do what they did with Bungie and bringing them into the team, but. I guess it is what it is. But I want to say that I hope Marathon turns out to be, enough to bring back that interest. Because if not, at that point, what is Bungie going to be in the next couple of years?
Right, and I think another thing is that the problem with something like whether it has heroes or not, due to how long it takes to make games right now. I mean, again, 5 to 6 years for a lot of these games being made right now. Is that when they think of these ideas and what they want to make and everything, right? Like 6 years ago, that's where hero shooters were kind of at their peak, essentially, right? We know obviously that Overwatch was the start of that stuff back in like 2016/2017, but it kind of hit its peak essentially in terms of people, the main majority of people wanting to play. I'm not talking about the Twitter online guys or us or anything. I'm talking about the majority of just your casual gamer, right? They were really into the hero shooter stuff. But now it's going to be 2024 going on 2025 when this thing eventually comes out, and it just feels like something that if it had been released like 4 to 5 years ago, then that would have been better. It's kind of the same thing that we saw with like Concord and everything, right? Concord feels like some kind of game that should have been made like 5 to 6 years ago. If that had been the case and it had released back then, I think it actually would have done decently okay. But in this day and age, it's most likely not going to do that well unless the Sony numbers or PlayStation numbers, I should say, popped off like crazy in the open beta. I highly doubt it, but that's just going to, my personal thoughts and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this particularly.
I was going to say too, like, a part of me is also like thinking about like their strategy, like if they're going to drop Concord this year, right? Or matter of fact, Concord drops in like a couple weeks,
right?
And then it's like this game. When does this game drop next year? Like, I don't know. Like, is it a good strategy to be dropping to? Because Marathon is live service, right? Like that's a confirmed thing.
It is a live service game. Not to mention they also have Concord coming out in the next couple weeks, and they already have Helldivers too, right? Yeah. So that's a lot of live service stuff.
That's my fear, is that there's a lot of competing there, and so that's what gets me a little like concerned about like how well can we expect Marathon to do. I mean, the Bungie name alone will help, but I mean at this point, right, how much will it really help? Yeah, so it is dependent on like what this game looks like, and I said I think that's the core issue at hand right now, is that like we don't really know what this game looks like, how it plays. Like we only had that teaser, and then so far everything else afterwards from the studio was like negative. So it's like they're really gonna have to wow us, I feel like, with this next showing of the game, and hopefully it's soon, especially if it's gonna come out next year. I think that's the
And-
big thing. So, you know,
Right.
have some unique things
and
to make it stand
Lemon
out.
and Lemon has talked about this before with me as well on other streams and everything, that the biggest problem, and this is kind of where my tinfoil hat comes from, that, you know, Jim Ryan got crazy, was trying to spend too much money, and they, you know, the higher ups at Sony asked him to leave, is the higher ups of any company. It's not just Sony, it's Xbox, it's EA, it's all of them, right? They don't understand that, you know, that they all want these live service games because you see the money flowing in and everything. The problem is that all of us, the people playing the game, we are limited on time to play all of these games. Even if in a perfect world, everyone was still at home, you know, stuck inside and everything due to a pandemic and everything like that, you're still limited on time. And so when you have somebody playing a game, like let's say, for example, Fortnite and Overwatch, most people have two at most when it comes to a live service game. Now, all of a sudden, you're trying to throw in 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 10 other ones? That doesn't make sense. But I know it's because they don't actually see that. They just simply see the money signs in front of them saying like, oh, we make something like this, half effort, and the money will just roll in because people are going to buy microtransactions and everything. When in reality, it's like, no. Either people are not going to even touch your game because they're just going to stick with the game that they already have been with, you know, for years and years, or they're going to try it out, ridicule it, and then next thing you know, you're in the same position as WB Games when it comes to like Suicide Squad and everything. So it's a lose-lose situation. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with them. But I don't have much faith in Marathon, unfortunately, because again, I feel like the Bungie now is not the Bungie that we knew back in the day. They're just not, right? Obviously, the talent is still there. You know, firing weapons in a Bungie game still feels absolutely amazing. But with the higher ups and everything, I just don't have any faith. I really don't. And I feel like, again, Marathon is something that was tried to make back in like probably 2019, and it's been slow going. And then now they're going to be like, oh, yeah, here's Marathon, by the way. And it's like, why does this feel like a 2019, 2018? I don't have much hope for it. So, but regardless, though, guys, let us know your thoughts. What do you personally think? Do you think this is going to work out pretty well? Because I don't know. I don't have much hope. Lemon, I know you probably don't have much hope when it comes to something like Marathon.
Nope.
Yeah, like you just said, nope, it's just not going to work out. Lethal, you've got you're a little bit more positive than us, but I think overall, with the negative press that is going around Bungie right now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the near future. So stay tuned.